I'm going to work through this case study of clients we saw a couple of weeks ago. Now, always when we go for training as financial advisors and they explain new things to us, the clients are always called Fred and Mary. So I'm going to stick to the protocol and call this client Fred and Mary. Client Fred and Mary, they came to us. Fred earns an income of $120,000 a year. I want you to kind of gauge your own situation around the numbers that I show in this calculator. So it's not important that you see me, it's important that you see the investment calculator that's on the screen now. So Fred earns an income of 120, Mary earns an income of 40,000 a year. They have 2 kids in primary school, late primary school. They said that they would like to, Fred is 40, Mary is 38. They would like to retire in 15 years when Fred is 55. And when they retire, they would like to have an income of $52,000 a year to pay for life. So these are just all the expenses, just to make sure that they have enough money to pay the bills. They would like to have $20,000 a year for all the nice things. These are the restaurants and movies and holidays. They would like to have $50,000 just to replace their car, and give $100,000 to the kids, so $50,000 each for to get them into a house or whatever the case may be. So for that to be a reality, they would need $1.4 million in the bank today. But because we were talking about this thing called inflation, that 1.4 million is 2 million in 15 years' time. So I said to Fred and Mary, do you know what your funds are invested in? They said yes, just like everyone in the audience. It's invested in a balance fund. On average, they earn about 6% per year. That's Fred's salary, Mary's salary. The employer is putting in 10.5% of their funds into super. Fred's balance was 80,000. Mary's balance in their super was 60,000. So Fred and Mary did nothing else apart from going to work and keep going. They'd end up with a super balance of 771,000 combined. They also have a home that is worth 600,000. They have a mortgage of 300,000 on the property, paying an interest rate of 4.5%. I don't know if that's roughly in the ballpark. Their payments are $385 a week. So it'll take them, I think, another 21 years. It would take them another 24 years to pay off their mortgage. We go to the projector. After 15 years, they'd still owe 160,000 on the mortgage. And so they will end up with 610,000, which is a far way off the 2 million that they would like. So I asked the question, does 2 million sound like a big number? Mary started crying. It was a whole thing. She didn't know how we're going to get there based on what we do. So we started with their income, did the tax calculations. After tax, at the moment, the income is, I don't know how to get that out yet. $123,000 a year is what they take home. The mortgage payment is $20,000 a year, and they said their living expenses were roughly about $6,500 a month. So I said to them, based on my calculations, then you have a weekly cash flow surplus of $484. And Mary and Fred said, where is this $484? We don't know where it goes. It just disappears. We don't keep track of it. So I said, okay, we're going to put some strategies in place to see how close we can get to the 2 million. Because they have some super, I said, let's get really smart with superannuation. Mary, because of your income, you qualify for government co-contribution. So Mary makes a contribution of $1,000 a year, and the government is very nice and gives her $500 a year back. And I said, because you're still young and you have a long time frame to go to retirement, we're going to target a higher return in the key portfolios and target an 8% return, taking a bit more risk, taking on a little bit more risk for 15 years. So just by doing those two things, It's not costing them any money, but we're adding $195,000 to their target with the higher growth strategy in their super fund, and the $1,000 a year that Mary's putting into a super costs her $19, and the ATO is very, very kind to give her another $500. That adds $42,000 over a 15-year period. So we've created wealth of $237,000, and the client is paying $19. What I forgot to tell you was, of the 484, I said let's try and spend no more than $350 a week. So we went back to superannuation, and I said, okay, on average, I asked them, what are your wage increases every year? They said around 3%. I said, okay, how much of a difference does 3% make on a weekly basis in your cash flow? They said, we don't even recognize that we're getting $60 a week more. It just goes into the next, another slab of beer or whatever the case may be. So I said, I want half of that. Please give me 1.5%. Because I'm going to get smart and disciplined with wealth creation. Just by doing that, we probably salary sacrifice that back into their super pay rises, generate $63,000 over a 15-year period. Then we went to their loan and said, look, we don't want to wait this long for you guys to pay off your mortgage. We need to get rid of that debt a little bit sooner, so we increased their mortgage payments to $520 per week instead of $385. What sort of a difference did that make? After 15 years, they only now have a $10,000 debt to pay when they retire, and it's costing them $135 a week extra in their budget. So of the $350 budget, we've spent $154, and we're $300,000 better off.
Does this calculator take into account the inflation over those 15 years?
Yes, it does. It doesn't take into account all the tax benefits on salary sacrifice and all that, by the way. We also said, can you afford $50 a week salary sacrifice? They said yes, no worries. It's $2,600 a year. Doesn't sound like a lot of money. They're not going to miss $50 a week in their pay packet. Just by doing that, we moved that 300 up now to 428,000. That salary sacrifice is costing them $72 per week after tax. Yeah. So we spent 226 of the 350. Then we said, okay, because you've got some equity in your home of $300,000, we're going to recommend investment property. But after tonight's presentations, I'm probably going to send them to Adam, to Steve, and to those guys to invest in another property, because this is the property that Nitin was talking about, where you pay $1 to save 47. So I must be very careful here with my assumptions. Just want to pre-fill this and say we're going to buy a property for $500,000 in WA, and we add all the costs on that, and we finance that for $5,000. We're going to get a rent of $550, and I hope this is now it's negatively geared, so I'm paying $40 to save 47%. Just for argument, let's just leave it there, because the idea with the property investment is to have the property rented out, get the tax benefits on it, and then after 15 years sell the property, just take the value. And we assume a growth rate of 4% on the value of the property over a 15-year period.
Can we run this concurrently, like at the end, with one that rents out for $1,500 a week or something?
My calculator that. So what we're going to do is go back to the projector and say, okay, if we sell this property in 15 years' time, pay off the debt, we're going to walk away with $376,000. That's costing the client $29 a week. That's the negative gearing part of things. But obviously, if they go into property options that you guys offer, this will look like 4 times better. Yeah. We also said let's get smart with share investments, and we go borrow money to turn a bad debt into good debt. and we borrow $50,000 in a line of credit and $1,000 a month for dollar cost averaging. And we invest that in a share portfolio for 15 years and get a 4% dividend income and a 4% capital growth on the share. So the 4% is really, really conservative. The long-term average of the Australian share market is 6.8. Yeah? So we try and not create expectations with clients. But that generates another $282,000 after the period. The loan is costing the client $56 a week. So we end up, and that's about what we can do for clients apart from the property things, because I'm going to call Fred and Mary tomorrow and say you need to speak to Adam and Neil and everyone. We can get to 1.8 million. At this stage, Mary stopped crying. It wasn't that big of an issue for her anymore, but we couldn't get to 2 million. So now we can say we need to adjust your expectation, or you can't retire at age 55. You need to retire at age 56, 1 year later. So we'll need 2.1 million. Stick with those strategies for another 12 months and beyond 2.1 million. And this is the way we put these portfolios together for clients, where we advise them on property, we advise them on shares, superannuation strategies, and the fact that time is very important as an asset for most people. 10 or 15 years is usually enough to accumulate enough assets. So even I'm 50 at the moment. If I put a plan like this into place for a 15-year term, I'm still going to be okay. Yeah? If I'm 55, hopefully the kids are then moved on and do their own thing, and I have more cash flow, and I can throw more at this pathway to wealth and create assets. If they decide they don't want to retire before they have access to their super, because remember, at 56 you cannot access your superannuation funds, and we make that term 20 years when Fred is 60, they're going to need 2.3 million. They're sitting on 3.3. So they can now say, instead of spending $20,000 a year on the nice things, I'm going to spend $70,000 a year on all the nice things. So just to show you the calculator that we use to put portfolios together for clients, we don't do all the implementation. Guys like Neil and Nathan and Liz will do the lending part of things, but this is how we put the plans together. Something else that I finally want to mention quickly is when clients retire at age 60 or 65, they feel they have to have all this capital, 3.3 million, or I'm not going to make it, I'm going to outlive my money. But they don't realize that their biggest income need is probably going to be in the first 10 or 15 years. Yeah? Up until they reach around age 80. So in the first 10 or 15 years, you want to jump on the planes and go everywhere and see everything and not work anymore and splash and go on holidays and all that. But when you get to 80, you're not going to be in the mood to do that anymore. Your income needs going to drop. Yes, it's true that maybe your health expenses are going to go up the older you get, but it's not going to be that crazy compared to what your income need is going to be. So don't forget Centrelink benefits. So you can, if you have to do too much assets when you retire, you won't qualify for Centrelink if you have more than $800,000 worth of assets outside your home. But as you start spending your money and you get to age 76, 77, we see that every day. Our clients have enjoyed 10, 15, in some cases longer, years in retirement, spend a lot of money, spoil themselves because they worked 40 years and they deserve that. But because their income need is now smaller, they qualify for full age pension, and they just supplement the age pension with their own money and never run out of money in retirement. So I hope that was enlightening and I gave some good information, and I'm happy to answer questions if you have.
Thank you.
Good.